has doubled in the quarter to $1.5 billion. Our investments on research and innovation continues. In Q1, we applied for 154 patents and were granted 277 patents. With those updates, I hand it back to Kritika and we'll open it up for question. Back to you, Kritika.
Thank you so much, Kriti, for the opening address. We'll start with the question and answers. As always, request everyone to keep it to 2 questions so we can accommodate everyone. We also have a few journalists joining online. We'll start with Reema Tendulkar, CNBC TV 18.
Gentlemen, good evening and congratulations. Kriti, first question on revenues. Is this kind of revenue growth sustainable? Do you anticipate a pickup as the year progresses, and your view on discretionary spending? And also throw some color on the deal wins, because it's lower quarter on quarter and on a year-on-year basis. We understand that it's lumpy, but say for the full year, FY25, do you think the deal wins can be better than what we had last year, FY24? At least do you have that kind of confidence? Samir, on margins, it's a strong performance considering the wage hike, but it appears that your employee cost as a percentage of revenue has come down, which raises the question that have you given out less to your employees this time compared to the past, or is there more increased offshoring? Subcontracting costs we know is an element, but other than that, and Milind, do you think you can continue to add to your headcount in the coming quarters? Is that the confidence you have? And even on attrition, the way forward? Thank you.
Thanks, Reema. First of all, as I said, we are quite happy with the all-round growth in across all verticals and markets. That's the most important message for us. Your question of whether we can sustain this growth, we are not going to call that explicitly. We still believe it's too early to call whether the growth momentum is sustainable, because the market conditions continue to remain same as it was last quarter. So there is nothing new to add in terms of market sentiments. But we, at the same time, last quarter we mentioned that we believe FY25 will be better than FY24. We continue to hold that stand, and we are looking forward to a better FY25 compared to 24. In terms of order book, like you said, it is lumpy. But at the same time, what gives us confidence is the overall pipeline. Like we look at our qualified pipeline and total pipeline, which continues to be at a near all-time high. So it's more a question of timing on how much gets booked in a particular quarter. And the other point is, we believe like 7 to 9 at our current revenue range, we are looking at about 7 to 9 billion. TCV is a comfort range, and we are within that range. So we don't see any specific issue over there.
Reema, on the wage increments, the overall impact of increments is 170 basis points, and that has been in line with what we have given in the past. Typical range has been between 150 to 200 basis points. Your question in terms of the manpower cost percentage, as you would have seen in the last 3-4 quarters, we have been driving better productivity, improved utilization, and reduction in subcontractor costs. The first two does reflect better on the manpower cost, and that balances out some of the impact of increments in this quarter as well.
I think with regard to your question on whether we'll continue to add headcount, I think we actually have onboarded 11,000 trainees in this quarter. And trainees being, as I have been saying always, key strategy of basically developing talent at TCS and deploying. And that will continue, in this year. What the net headcount will be every quarter will be difficult to say, because it depends on many other factors. With respect to attrition, we are at 12.1%, 40 basis points down from last quarter. I think, I believe it will stabilize at this point with this number.
Thank you. Ankur Mishra from ET Now.
Good evening, everyone. While we understand that you are not calling it out and not giving explicit guidance per se, but you are maintaining that FY25 will be better than FY24. I want to ask you here, which will be favorable parameters for you for changing the stance, and vice versa, which are the risks which you are seeing, and hence you are saying that you cannot call it out right now. On the operating margins front, there is 1.5% increase year on year. Can you give guidance at least on that part? Will you be able to maintain that operating margin? And on the attrition rate, while you have maintained that this is the level where you will be able to maintain at near 12%, do you believe that from forecasting point of view, if I would say so, that attrition levels will not go anywhere from here?
Ankur, first on the parameters or what yearly indicators, both from a favorable or risk perspective, I would say, what is the how much is the re-evaluation of the ongoing projects that's going on? Okay, if for customers continue to re-evaluate the whole discretionary programs, and some of them get passed, the rate at which it gets passed, that's probably an indication. Second is the sentiment in terms of how much they want to go towards cost optimization, how much they want to invest. These are the parameters that would also give us the confidence. And as I said, like this, in our view, remains very similar to last quarter. That's the reason we're not ready to call out whether the growth momentum will sustain.
So, Ankur, typically the biggest headwind which we have is what we take upfront in the financial year, and that's what has happened. And typically we claw back and inch up in each of the going next quarters. And we'd expect that journey to continue. If you look at FY24, we had, after taking the initial increment impact, we ended up almost 100 basis points in each of the next 3 quarters. And that was driven through significant operational driving significant operational efficiency. And we stay focused on driving operational rigor in our operation.
With respect to attrition, 12.1% where we are at right now, and I obviously cannot predict for the future, like everything else. But I think I'll say that will be a few basis points here and there, but will be in the vicinity of this in the coming quarter.
Thank you. Sajid Mangat from NDTV Profit.
Hi, Kriti. Give me a sense of, you said you're not in a position to call out growth as of now, but give me a sense of how North America is doing as a whole, because on a YOY basis, it has fallen. If you can also give us a color on a quarter-on-quarter basis and how North America has done. And in the verticals, BFSI in particular, where are you seeing some kind of recovery happening in that segment for BFSI? Samir, 140 bips quarter-to-quarter impact on EBIT margin, 3% down. You said you will inch up over the next quarter, but what is the kind of levers that you have, given the fact that we're seeing the subcontracting cost is also going up in this quarter, and if I'm not wrong, you said that we're going to rely more on a bench to fill up those vacancies. So are we going back to a case where you're going to get back to subcontracting costs ahead? And 11,000 odd fresh trainees, but for the full year, what if there is some guidance on number of trainees or laterals that you look at on a net and or a gross basis?
Yeah. See, first question you asked on North America and BFSI. So BFSI or North America, if you take both, the quarter-on-quarter, as we said, they have a positive growth. But for that to reflect on year, it takes, because it's a trailing number, right? It takes probably a couple of quarters, or you have to have a superior growth in single quarter to turn positive. So with the kind of growth we have, it's improving, but it needs some more sustained growth on a Q-on-Q basis to become positive on a year-on-year basis. Both BFSI and North America are also intertwined because we have a great exposure to BFSI in North America. So as BFSI, we start seeing growth, North America will see, the vice versa is also true. From within BFSI, we had a good, reasonable growth compared to Europe this quarter. We don't call out separately, but now BFSI North America grew better than Europe in this quarter, Europe and continental UK, which is a good sign, like it's a recovery on the North America BFSI. Within BFSI, we saw better growth in banking compared to previous quarter, which is again is a good thing. North America, other segments like manufacturing continues to do well, and we had a good growth in energy resources also. So it is having life sciences also have grown. So multiple segments have grown, but as I said, it's too early to call out whether that will be sustained.
So one data point correction in what you said, it's 130 basis points impact, not 140 basis points. And what levers do we have to inch up? I think in the short term, pyramid, productivity and utilization will continue to be levers which we can rely upon. And in the medium to long term, I think pricing and growth acceleration should help us help on margins. Subcontracting part, sorry. So as we called out in the previous quarter, I think we should see it staying stable around these levels. It need not be an incremental lever, but that would also depend on how demand plays out going forward.
11,000 trainees have come in. We have already going through a national qualifier test. Actually, concluded the test already, and we have a significant number of people cleared those tests. Interviews are going on. My numbers, like I always every year say 40,000. It will be close to that. I can't tell you exactly what that number would be, but it will be. We're trying to basically bring close to that. And depending on various situations, what happens, but that is what we are, going for.
One question on the TCV part. $8 billion that you've said. You said your range is $7 to $9 billion. But if you look at Q on Q from and YOY, how your TCVs have played out, this seems to be a little lower than expected. You said there are some orders which are not getting closed. Are these now, have we seen a trend of orders now getting closed faster, or is it still the same thing which we have seen in FY24 where there is a push for these orders to close going forward?
See, there is no specific delay or orders getting closed. This particular quarter, we had some major order projects we were expecting to close within Q1 that did not close, that got moved into Q2. It need not be because of decision-making delays. It could be of various other reasons. But beyond that, there is nothing much to read in the overall TCV. As I said, our order book is quite healthy. Pipeline is quite healthy as it was in the previous quarter. Previous quarter, we had $12.4 billion of TCV. We are able to replenish all that. That's the most important thing. Our pipeline has replenished and is more or less at a high all-time peak level. So the TCV itself anyway tends to be lumpy. Sometimes you have a very large mega program that comes and skews the TCV also.
Thank you. Next question from Debangana Ghosh, Money Control.
Hi. Kriti, my first question to you. This quarter, we are seeing a lot of the growth coming from India, MEA, and regional markets. So wanted to get a sense if this is going to be the trend going forward in the upcoming quarters. And like you also mentioned, is this where TCS is going to strategically bet next? And
yes and no. We definitely want to continue to. We already announced last time also. Diversification of revenue has been an important strategy, and we look at these markets as very important growth levers as we go forward. But does it mean that the other geographies will not grow? We hope they do grow very well faster, and so. But we do believe these regional geographies will become material over a period of time.
right. And from a vertical perspective, this quarter we saw the revenue contribution from BFSI has continued to come down. Is that also where we are going to see more diversification come in?
See, BFSI has had only this quarter after a couple of quarters at a positive growth. So when you have a couple of quarters of degrowth, the contribution overall percentage will come down. And also you saw the revenue coming in, BSNL is one of the key revenue levers for us. So when BSNL is non-BFSI and revenue comes from other sources, the BFSI contribution naturally comes down.
Sure. One question for Milind. Wanted to get a sense of what the lateral hiring plan is going to look like for FY25. Are there going to be certain skill sets that you will be betting on, like looking for rather expanding?
Like I always say, our key strategy has been to basically hire from the campus, and then during the quarter during the year, some sweep quarter planning of that also happens. We figure out what are the skill gaps we have, and based on that we hire. And those skills are across the dimensions in various aspects. So it is depends on the specific business situation. From I can keep on naming, but we hire everything. And from very niche skills to some generic skills also at times we need. So very difficult to call out specific skill sets, I'd say, because it is not specific. It is across the board.
Right. And what is the outlook on large deal wins and mega deals this year?
See, we are discussing with our customers on number of large deals. I don't want to put a specific number, but this is very similar to what happened. Particularly, see, mega deals are quite lumpy like that. You may never have many of them at any point in time, but large deals numbers are quite healthy, like it used to be in previous quarters.
Sure. Thank you.
Next question from Himanshi Lochap from Economic Times.
Hi, sir. You said that your AI, cloud, cybersecurity, and enterprise solutions have led the growth this quarter. Can you quantify this for us?
We have not. We are not giving that breakup. Okay. What we said is that there's been a very strong pipeline in AI, and the number of engagements that we are doing in AI is gone up to 270. So there is a overall good traction to our solutions in the market.
And one more thing, there have been aggressive acquisitions by your peers, but we've not heard anything about TCS. So what is your view on inorganic growth, and are you looking at any acquisitions?
We constantly look at opportunities to acquire, and as we have said in the past, it has to. We don't want to look at acquisition as a revenue lever. Okay, we need to. We believe that it has to. There should be synergy between what we acquire and what we can expand based on what we acquire, and it has to make a business case. So whenever we see such an opportunity, such an asset, we definitely will go for it. And constantly we do continue to evaluate, but as I said, we look for those synergies and we look for a business case in those acquisitions.
Thank you.
Harshada Sawant from CNBC Awaaz.
Good evening, gentlemen. Kriti, if you could throw some light on AI, cloud, cybersecurity, because your press release specifically mentions that these three segments, including enterprise solutions, have led growth in the quarter. Right. So, what is the kind of visibility in the upcoming deals? Are clients more skewed towards spending in these areas versus reluctance on other areas of spend? Also for Samir, if you could also give me an idea as to how the pricing negotiations impacting conversations per se. Are they changing at all, or they stay where they are when you go and renew deals? Thank you.
So Harsh, the AI, cloud, cybersecurity will continue to lead growth because those are the areas our customers are very keen on and they're interested in. So most of the new investments will be, if it is not about other area that you see a lot of interest is about application modernization or technology modernization, and even then it probably will be moving from a on-prem data center to cloud or something similar. So these three, AI, cloud, cybersecurity will continue along with enterprise applications will continue to drive most of the future growth. So how much of that will I don't want to quantify, but on a overall growth, these service lines will continue to attract a lot of attention.
So just to follow, so when you say discretionary spends haven't returned or they stay where they are, they're not holding back with spends when it comes to AI and ES and cloud. Is that correct to understand?
See, like cloud sometimes can be discretionary, sometimes customers do it from a cost optimization perspective also. If they see there's a cost optimization, they may do that immediately. Similarly, cybersecurity, is not a discretionary option. Cybersecurity, when they find there is a risk, they have to invest on it. So to some extent, cybersec actually is a non-discretionary spend. Whenever they see a risk situation or the vulnerability, the investment will be more.
Pricing overall has been stable, like we have been calling it out. There could be aberrations at a customer level, but at the portfolio level, there's nothing material to call out.
Ekta Suri from Z Business.
गुड इवनिंग जेंटलमैन सर मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगी कि आपने इस साल विजडम नेक्स्ट लॉन्च किया, उसको किस तरह का रिस्पांस मिल रहा है और कितनी इंडिया में कंपनीज ऐसी हैं जो जेन एआई को अपनाने के लिए रेडी हो चुकी हैं, their बेस इज स्ट्रांग इनफ टू add gen AI to the system?
Yeah. See, as I said, the response and the reception from the customers has been very strong because it makes it easy for many customers to evaluate multiple large language models. It helps them in easily rolling out templated prompts to different user segments. And it also has the ability to create catalog of prompts for multiple industry verticals. So it makes it very easy for any enterprise to roll it out and evaluate. So the reception has been very strong overseas. India, we have few installations, but we will continue to have more.
कंपनीज अडेप्ट करने के लिए रेडी हो चुकी है इंडिया में?
Actually, like we did a survey some time ago, both in India across the globe. Almost 90% of the CIOs have embarked on some program or other. See, the question here is, are they seeing a business outcome? And the question is about scaling. And everyone wants to adapt, but they have to find the right business outcome and find a way to scale it. So interest-wise, there is a phenomenal interest. But we are still in the early stages because we are not, in many cases, we don't know how to scale. And there are cases where the business outcomes are still being worked out.
एंड ऑल्सो इस साल आपके और भी प्लान्स है डेटा सेंटर्स को लॉन्च करने के लिए, इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स को ध्यान में रखते हुए, साइबर सिक्योरिटी को ध्यान में रखते हुए?
We are continuing to have, like we did launch a center in Cincinnati on Internet of Things. We have started few centers, cybersecurity centers in India and overseas. So we will continue to do that.
And one last question, any budget expectations, being a key player from the IT sector?
See, like we have seen over the years, it's I think we are anyway, like Samir probably can explain more. We are moving also towards the what is the tax regime? New regime on tax. So that's and we don't expect any major impact either way. So we are fine.
Thank you. Varun Sood from Mint.
Hi, gentlemen. So first, clarification. The entire India growth, is it led by the BSNL growth? Would that be a fair conclusion to draw? Almost 90% of your India business came from BSNL?
Varun, like always, we don't split out customer specific ones. You could probably do the maths, but BSNL is part of India. But we don't split out how much is BSNL and non-BSNL within India.
But BSNL, other than BSNL also,
It has
India
been
grew
growing.
very well. We don't want to give a number. India grew very well other than BSNL also.
Right, sir. So the question is, you said in your opening statements that you're very happy with the well-rounded growth at the start of the fiscal year. I would like to believe that in the business where you are, perhaps you know a little bit of directionally sense of where the business is going to come from the next 1 or 2 quarters. But then you are also adding a disclaimer that we don't know whether this growth momentum can be maintained. Now, if we look at the numbers, again, 3/4 of your incremental revenue came from India, year over year, I'm talking about. Samir can validate this, which is largely, again, led by BSNL. So I'm just trying to understand what gives TCS this confidence when perhaps you are just being a one-trick pony, so to speak, for incremental revenue growth. It's all largely dependent by BSNL.
I can, without getting into the specific numbers, Varun, yes, BSNL did grow well, but is it all driven only by BSNL? When you compare with again, you have to compare with what is the last quarter Q4 growth versus Q1 growth. I would say non-BSNL had a substantial part in this growth. Okay, and BSNL, as I said, like all markets grew. Okay, last quarter, I said sequentially, all the markets grew, all the business verticals grew. If it is only BSNL, it's primarily India story. Like you would not have seen growth in other markets and multiple other verticals, because we do see growth in on a sequential basis, not on a year-on-year basis. On a sequential basis, there is a strong growth outside of BSNL. When I say strong, relative compared to what we have seen in previous quarters. So it's not a one-trick pony. But at the same time, the reason that we are hesitant to call out a sustained growth is we do find market conditions to be quite volatile. Customers do take decisions at a very short notice based on what they perceive or the market conditions and their sentiments.
So just a last question. This customer uncertainty, is it primarily because of the macroeconomic? Because when I look at the markets, when I look at the performance of some of the Fortune 50 companies, it doesn't reflect in their numbers. Or is there a little bit of uncertainty being caused by the rise of Gen AI, which perhaps is making clients a little circumspect on giving business to Indian IT outsourcing firms?
We have, I would say the first one is probably more true, Arun, in terms of they themselves are not sure whether the while their business individual, I have seen many of the enterprises. Many of them, particularly the banks, have posted very good results or likely to post good results. But it's more about their outlook on what they see, because they are uncertain. They are preparing for a rainy day. And that is what is causing this. I don't think Gen AI related pullback is not significant.
Thank you.
Ashish from PTI.
Thank you. So you said that regional geographies, including India, will become material as we go ahead. So like generally with integrity of examinations coming under a cloud within India, how big an opportunity is that segment? You're already present there. So how do you look at that opportunity, and do you have the necessary solutions? Because quite a lot of them would be specialized examinations or going beyond what you already do. So on that piece.
Probably TCS is the biggest player in the examination market. Our technology is very, very superior in our TCS Ion. That assessment platform is probably one of the best platforms in terms of technology. And the market share TCS has today on a computer-based exams. We don't participate when it's a paper-based exams. On a computer-based exams is very high, and we continue to strengthen it further, technology further, and we do expect to play in this market significantly.
So the second question, this is to Samir. So you mentioned that productivity and utilization are the immediate margin levers, and from a medium-term perspective, pricing and growth would help. You're saying pricing is stable broadly. So given where we are, how confident are you to close FY25 in the aspirational band?
Okay, so I think where we have started Q1 with at 24.7 is 150 basis points higher than what we did in Q1 of last year. And as we said, we explained the levers, and we stay committed to the 26 to 28 aspirational band which you have been talking about.
Thank you. Benny Chan from the New Indian Express.
Hi. Two quick clarifications. You said that what is the absolute outgo would be on the salary hike?
170 basis points is the impact that works out to about absolute number of about a little more than 1,000 crores.
That's for the quarter.
Per quarter. Yes.
Okay. And on the hiring part, you added 11,000 trainees. And what is the offer letters pending now?
No.
What
I said is we have a national qualifier test, which is just we are in the process of concluding it. And the interviews are going on.
Okay.
And based on the overall situation and based on the fact that we have a certain historical number we hire every year, based on it, we'll decide and hire in the coming quarters.
Next question from Rosuke Hanada from Nikkei.
Hi, since we are Japanese news agency, so I would like to ask about what do you think about the opportunity for the Japanese clients? When we see the geographical portfolio, North America, definitely North America is one of the major segments. But what do you think of the rest of the area, such as Japan or such kind of area?
We are quite focused on Japan. You know that we have a joint venture with a major business group in Japan, and our business is continuously growing. In fact, our engineering business is very strong in Japan. We continue to look and also we are looking at while we increase our footprint in Japan, and we have multiple delivery centers already, and we are also trying working with multiple banks and manufacturing organizations to see how we can do certain amount of offshoring so that we can provide more flexibility and speed to the Japanese business. But it is a focus area for us.
In second question, the last March, the Union Cabinet approved the India AI mission. And what do you think of the impact of this AI mission on the company's some strategy or financial performance?
So it is definitely a great opportunity to create, bring in more startups into play, and more innovation and more research. And from TCS perspective, we look at it in a very positive way, because we do want more careers. While there is a lot of interest in generative AI, we need more skills also. I think this will create more deeper skills available for us to create more solutions that we can take to our customers.
Thank you so much, sir.
Ayushi Kar from Hindu Business Line.
Hi, sir. I just wanted to call out, this is the first quarter where NGSR is not here and his presence is sorely missed. I wanted to understand, given that your management is sharing his responsibilities, what has the experience been like sort of doing this quarter without him, and how have you divided the responsibilities? And on his pet BSNL, are you going to complete the network rollout in this financial year, if you can give us?
I don't know what is the right answer to say experience is good or bad. We definitely miss him. Okay, he's been a statesman amongst us who was helping us in many things, and the way we have shared his responsibility with the rest of the management team. And so far, but he is whenever we need to seek his counsel, we do seek his counsel, and so it's been working so far quite good.
Yes, but can you give us an idea on the BSNL deal? Will you be completing the, can you just say categorically say that the network rollout?
The current plan is like we had, I think it was a 24 months rollout that we had worked out contractually. Right. We are working on those 24 months period. At this time, we are quite, we have a plan to deliver as per the contract commission.
And will it be finished in this financial year?
That's what we are looking to do.
All right. I also wanted to understand, you spoke about how generally a lot of your deals are shifting exclusively towards AI. Can we expect any mega deals for AI exclusively in this year?
See, like it'll be very difficult to have a mega deal on AI. Probably there will be a mega deal that incorporates AI. That's the way you would see. Like you may not have one deal only on AI. Like you'll probably do a large program in which AI will be a main significant component.
Right. One final question from Milind, sir. I know that like TCS's model largely looks at hiring freshers and training them up, but several IT leaders have called out how there is a skill set gap for lateral hires. So can you give us a outlook on that?
I think it all depends on how you plan. You know, if you plan well, you will have a lesser gap. Because when you are bringing people from the campus, you would train them for some time and then eventually deploy them, and figure out what the gap is, and then hire the remaining from the market. All of that, if it is done well with a proper plan, we normally do not see an issue. If we also have a planning issue, we'll also see a gap. Otherwise, not.
Thank you. We'll now go to our journalists that have been patiently waiting online. Let's start with Sankal from Bloomberg.
Good evening, gentlemen. Kriti,
yes, go ahead.
Kriti, I wanted to ask you this question. I mean, you did talk about North America, And whatever we've seen of earnings of some of your global rivals, Accenture, Salesforce, a lot of enthusiasm about AI, but a lot of that is not translating into good growth because clients are still not spending as much. When you spoke about BFSI and the weakness there, of course, like the banks are doing well, but since you now layer AI into all of your products and services, I wanted to ask you that will we see the enthusiasm for AI turning into good, solid numbers as we get into the second half of this year? I mean, and that is in the context of your comment that FY25 will be better than the last year. That's question one. Milind, I'm a bit confused. I mean, I know you said that you'll see and recalibrate as you go forward in terms of hiring, but then you also said that the numbers are likely to be around 40,000. So which one is it? And this is in terms of India needing more and more engineers, not just TCS, but all companies needing more and more engineers as you drive AI and related services higher. Thank you.
Sankalp, I think we did talk about it last quarter. Any new technology that comes in, we overestimate the impact on the short term and underestimate its long term impact. And that same thing is happening with AI. We expect a significant revenue, significant impact within a few quarters. My view is the interest will keep increasing. We will identify newer use cases. We will understand how this technology has to be deployed over a period of time. And then you will start seeing it becoming mainstreaming. So at this time, we find many of them are still experimenting. As I said, the number of situations where a true tangible business outcome has been achieved is not very high. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it will not happen, because for you to get the value out of generative AI, it is not one isolated use case that you can do. You have to get your data pipeline right. You have your data. Sometimes you may have to get the traditional AI models also right. It has to work in combination with multiple other technologies. Then that's a time you would probably start seeing a tangible business outcome. So it is going to take some time, but till then people will be experimenting with point use cases. In such situations, the projects and programs will tend to be small. So we need to wait for this technology to mature in a way that where people know how to deploy it and what else they have to do to get the business benefit.
Okay, regarding trainees, what I said is 11,000 we already onboarded. Trainee is a core strategy for TCS. Campus hiring is a core strategy for TCS. We normally plan for 40,000 every year. So far, we are also in the middle of a national qualifier test and a good outcome coming there. With all the things which are happening, will come. I would like to go to close to that number. Let's see how it goes.
All right. Next question from Shivani Shinde from Business Standard. Yourself and ask your question. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Kriti, I just wanted a small clarification. So when you said AI deals doubling, you also shared a figure which is $1.5 billion. That's correct, right?
Last quarter, we announced 900 million. That's become 1.5 billion.
Right. Is it, just want to get some more color on this 1.5. Is the size of the deals continue to be small? And do you see what is the time period for these deals? Are these short-term deals? Are these long-term deal, or there is window for it to get extended? That's one question for you, Kriti. Samir, Samir, just wanted to get some sense from you for the capex for this fiscal, considering you have most of your employees back in office. Do we see a jump in that number? And Milind, a clarification rather back on the 11,000 trainee numbers. Last quarter, if I'm not mistaken, you did say that there has been a delay in onboarding. Does this onboarding of 11,000 training means all that delay is now being, all of those trainee freshers are also there and onboarded? And when you say the total hiring number is around 40,000, so is there a room that it may not be 40,000 as well? That's it.
Thanks, Shivani. First on AI, many of the deals still tend to be a short-term period, maybe a quarter or 2 quarter opportunity where you implement a specific use case. But we do have started seeing some of the long-term deals where for one of the clients we are creating what they call a AI office. It creates the overall infrastructure methodology for implementing AI solutions, and then this office will be looking at multiple use cases and roll out those use cases. It's a so some of the customers have started establishing their AI office also, which tends to be a long-term opportunity. So to answer your question, most of them are short-term, but we have started seeing some long-term opportunities as well.
And Shivani, our capex in this quarter was about 875 crores, and we have been investing into infrastructure, both physical infrastructure in terms of offices. Expansion plans are going on in about 5 metro cities and 5 more tier 2 cities. And also we have been investing on expansion of our technology infrastructure.
Shivani, a part of that 11,000 has come from the past year, a small part, and now we do not have any backlog from the last year. So now going forward, whatever we add, we will add from the coming year. With respect to, like, I would like to repeat that, this is a strategy for us, core strategy for us. So we actually want to go to that number, but we'll actually see how it goes over the year and decide as we go along.
Sajid, let's take it offline.
Skill set deficit that we're facing in terms of manpower, because you have relied on subcontracting to.
Actually, our subcontracting has gone down significantly, right? So currently, the point is, all our efforts are always to minimize that gap, and minimize that gap through proper planning, proper talent development, and the remaining to hire from the market. So far, we are, the gap will always be there. So some gap will always be there, and we need to manage that always, But it is not significant material enough to basically for us to worry, because and that gap can only be reduced through proper planning, and that we continue to do.
Sai Ishwar from Reuters.
Hi. Hi, gentlemen. Just two quick questions. First one, I wanted to ask you, Kriti, you said, it's too early to call, there is about the demand. You were saying that demand growth is not too early to call if growth is sustainable. So would the reason for this be different markets having different, or is it probably only concentrated with North America, where interest rate cuts or US elections having an overhang? And second point I wanted to ask was about, you called out saying Gen AI is not having a impact on demand, but do you think a lot of these global capability centers are opening in India and Southeast Asia? So is that one of the reasons where outsourcing spend is being repurposed for insourcing spends? Thank you.
So first on the demand, our major markets are North America, Western Europe, and UK. Like that's where close to about 85% of our revenue comes from. Amongst those markets, the market sentiments and outlooks very similar. So the reason that there is a demand we are not able to call out is the uncertainty in those markets. From GCC perspective, see, we do see some kind of growth in GCC, but so far it is not impacting us in a major way. So I don't think we will start worrying about. We are not worried about it at this time.
But any
Next
specific
question
reasons,
from Padmini
sir, you
Dhuvaraj
can
from Financial Express. Sorry, Sai, you had another question?
No, I just wanted more clarity on the reasons. Sir was saying about UK and US, right? With elections getting over in the UK, do you think probably there will be a demand recovery?
Right, like once the new government announces the policies and way forward, it should be bringing more clarity in UK definitely, and same thing should happen in US. Once the elections are over, there would be greater certainty.
We'll go to Padmini from
Thanks a lot.
Financial Express now.
Hello,
Yourself
gentlemen.
yeah.
Hi. So, have you stalled variable pay for your employees in the wage hike you just offered for who are not working out of office? And if so, how many employees were affected? Also, how much is the variable pay for the next year? Also, your women workforce percentage has stagnated between 3.35.5 to 35.8 since FY22. Why is that? And when I compare this quarter's figure on a YY basis, it has dropped around 30 bips. So does this have to do with company strategy of asking employees to work from office?
I think yes, there are implications for people not coming to office. We do not give out the amounts of what that impact would be, but it is something which we are doing more from basically bringing in the discipline standpoint and not for any other reasons. And most of our employees now, if you look at it today, 70% of our employees are back to office. So I'm not too much worried about the quantum of the number of people who would basically be not coming and getting affected because of this, and this number is increasing every week, I would say. So I'm not worried about that. I'm also not worried, and in fact people are realizing the value of coming to office. Some of them have come to office for the first time because they joined TCS during the pandemic. All of that is basically creating positive energy in the system. So everybody has to look at it, and looking at it very positively. And these aspects are temporary in nature from our standpoint, and need to be looked at from that angle by everyone.
Okay, on the
All right, Rohit Chintapalli from Business World. That's the last question from our online journalist. Rohit, can you unmute yourself? I believe Rohit's traveling right now. Rohit? Okay, I think we don't have his network. All right, so with that, that brings us to the end of this press conference. Thank you so much to all our stakeholders for joining us, and a big thanks to everyone that's joined us. Have a great evening, and to all the journalists that are in person, please join us for our refreshments. Thank you and goodbye.
Hey everyone, welcome to Simply Learn. Today, we will be learning the project management fill course. We will begin this video by talking about what project management is, project planning, how can it be done using Excel, cost, quality, communication and other forms of management, the best project managing tools, how you can prepare for the PMP exam, the role of a project manager, interview questions, and much more. By the time we are done, you'll be well versed with some of the most important concepts in project management. For this training with me, we have our specialists Chandra MR and Ishan. Together, they will take you through these different topics. So, let's start by answering our first question. What is project management? So before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you can never miss an update from Simply Learn.
Hi, welcome to Project Management tutorial from Simply Learn. I am Chandra MR, a professional consultant and coach in best practices related to project management and IT service management. Today, as part of this tutorial, we are going to learn the basic understanding about the project management and the required knowledge for a project manager to become successful in managing projects. So as part of this tutorial, we are going to look at what is project management, what is project, components of project management, project life cycle, key focus areas in project management, job roles in project management, and project management certifications. So, what is project management? Now, as defined in PMI's PMBOK, project management is application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. So, every project will have an objective to accomplish. Similarly, the objective of project management is to make the final deliverables in a finite time and budget. This involves having clear understanding about the deliverables of the project, required resources for the project, resource in terms of human resources, technical resources, financial resources, etc. Project manager should have a full picture of those aspects. We can call it project manager should have a full view about a project and what is that this project has to accomplish. That objective should be clear. So, as part of project management, the six constraints which project managers should look at are scope, time, quality, cost, risk, and resources. So, each of these areas has very important role to play in project management. The clarity in scope, the clarity in terms of schedule within which the project has to be delivered, the cost, what it incurs to that particular project. Once it is finalized, one cannot vary, one cannot change without any proper approvals. Similar to that, we have quality management specifications, what are defined. Project output will be accordingly achieved. Risk. Every project is taken up for a specific reason by organization. So organization should assess the risk associated with the project, and similarly, as project progresses, various different risks has to be identified, like risk related to project management, risk related to technology area, risk related to resources, risk related to financial things. So broadly, risk management plays a very important role. So there will be something called contingency reserve kept for a identified risk above the cost what is estimated for its deliverables from the project. So every project require resources. Resources may be in terms of human resources, financial resources, technology resources, environmental resources. So all these resources are used to produce the output of the project. So these resources has to be managed with the sufficient optimization and standardizations required. Now let us understand the definition of a project. So what is a project? PMI defines a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The temporary nature of a project indicates that a project has a definite beginning and end. So when I say product, unique product, it means every output, it may be similar products you are producing with the same features and functionality. But the output of every project is unique because it is unique in terms of all the six constraints what we just discussed now. Now when I say product, it is very easy for us to visualize. It may be a desktop, it may be a laptop, it may be a car, it may be a machine, etc. But how do I visualize a service? A project's output is a service. Now it's about building a capability. A project, by through a project, a capability can be built to ensure services can be provided. That's what the output of project is service. For example, if I think about a taxi services, for providing a taxi services, I need a mobile app. I need taxi. I need a server. I need a data center. So all these are various different products and services. Here, service example can be internet service. So combination of all these services and products builds the capability for an organizations who can provide the taxi services. So building that capability, we say it is an output of a particular project, which is called service. Similarly, results can be improvement of something, improvement in customer satisfaction, increase in some specific objectives or specific results needs to be achieved in performance perspective. So output of every project will be unique product or a service or a result. This we need to clearly understand. So when we say there is a definite beginning and end, every project starts at a certain point in time and ends at certain point in time. So it has a definite beginning and end. That is the reason it is temporary in nature. It is not an ongoing business activity, right? So every project will have a life cycle, a beginning and end. So when it starts till end, until the result or a service or a product which comes as an output of a project life cycle is not ended. So interestingly, in a product life cycle or in a service life cycle, you come across many project life cycles. So one project life cycle means one project is initiated to introduce a product or services. Next project or initiated would be to enhance the capability of a service or a product. Next project initiated after some time is to optimize something. Similarly, at the end of the product life cycle, project is initiated to retire that product or services. So in a given product life cycle, there may be multiple project life cycle. So what is involved in the project life cycle? It involves five areas, five groups we can call it as. So initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure. So when I say initiation, it's all about understanding what is project, giving the basic understanding of the project, collating the details, and having key stakeholders identified. Once that is done, one will move towards planning. So here in the initiation, it is very clearly one has to understand is project is worthwhile of doing. So one has to check the feasibility, one has to measure that particular investment is making sense, and then confirm, yes, it makes sense to invest. Now, next, planning. As we have a basic understanding of, yes, this project has to be done, and a discussion with the key stakeholders have happened, now that moves towards planning. Now, in planning, one will understand the project in entirety. If it is a waterfall approach, one has to have a clear articulation of entire project, a comprehensive details, holistic approach. Now, if you're going in a project in a agile way of approach, now in this planning, you may have a big skeleton. As you go in each of the iteration, you may go deep dive into detailed planning if it is an agile approach. So planning provides you the clear insight towards what needs to be done in this project, how it has to be done, and what are the results which can be achieved out of that particular project. So this involves making that a clear blueprint of an project objectives, what we are supposed to achieve. So this will become a reference point throughout the project life cycle. Then execution. As you have a blueprint of the project, as the direction of that project is set, detailing of the project has been made, one will go ahead and execute and implementing it. So execution phase involves the allocation of resources and making the deliverables as required. You acquire resources, you configure a resource, you ensure right resources are acquired. If it is human resource, one has to educate that human resource with the project required knowledge or details, or one has to provide that assignment in such a way that skills of that individuals what they should have is acquired by those individuals so that deliverables can happen, and they needs to be managed. The entire team needs to be managed. For that, a clear structure has to be created. Similarly, when you do technology resource perspective, those components has to be tested, configured, then integrated, again tested for and check the performances. So collective action of this results in a deliverable during the execution. So as the deliverables are happening in the execution, it is quite obvious project manager has to monitor, review, control that particular deliverable, and also the processes, tools, resources used during the project, even those needs to be monitored so that they are complying to the defined processes. So during monitoring, there may be a deviation one can found. During monitoring, there may be the project is running the way it is required. So in this monitoring phase, it involves an action from project manager to monitor and control the work of the project. So comparing with the blueprint of plan, what is accomplished, what is created during the planning phase of this project, and as the execution happens, monitoring and control is monitoring it and checking is that activities what is being done is according to the plan or not. Similarly, the deliverables which comes as an output of a projects are tested thoroughly, whether those have a specific features and functionality and are they functioning the way it is required. Now project has to be delivered to the scope what is defined. It should not go beyond that or below that. Similarly, the schedule what is made for the project, within that schedule project deliverables is to be accomplished within the cost what is budgeted for the project. So during the project, project manager may find there are certain deviations which are occurred, there are additional challenges which has come in. So for this reason, one has to ensure continued monitoring as the execution happens and identify those deviation and ensure whenever there is a deviation there is a correction. Whenever there is an additional things coming in, that needs to be considered carefully whether that need to be involved as part of this deliverable or should be taken it separately. So this requires a lot of conversation with all the stakeholders of the project during the entire project life cycle, especially during planning, execution, monitoring and control, since they are not the one which is happening in sequence. So planning can also come back again where there is something which you may require to modify. So you may require to have a change in the blueprint itself by adding that new change which is coming in. So you go back to planning. So planning, execution, monitoring and control are going hand in hand so that project deliverables are happening as needed. Similarly, all the process, work instructions, all those templates what is given are used. One is complying to those requirement. It is very important. And project is done within the scope, schedule and time and the quality metrics defined. Then as the completion of the project happens, as the monitoring and control says, yes, deliverable has happened according to the requirement, then the project moves to the closure. The closure may be closure of a specific project phase, a milestone deliverable or a phasal deliverable, or it can be a deliverable at the end of the project, which is the ultimate deliverable. So processes in closing has to be triggered whenever there is an end of the phase, whenever there is a deliverable to conclude, and also at the end of the project to conclude the entire project. So during the closure, one has to ensure capturing all the details in terms of what is accomplished against what is defined, what went wrong, what went well, what is the learning one has to take to the next level or to next phase or to the next project. And at the same time, a sign off has to be obtained formally and everything should be summarized and have a good handshake with the project stakeholder, mainly a business or customer, and also disseminating of team means you will dismantle the entire team and send them back to their specific units or specialization, and they may get assigned to new project, or if it is a functional they can go back to their functions to do their functional activities. So that was about entire project life cycle what happens. Now while doing this, I mentioned there are 6 constraints, that is scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk and resources. So keeping these in mind, one has to ensure project is successful in all aspects. So to become successful, there are few key areas which has to be looked at. So first 6 key areas are scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, and stakeholders. Now let us look at the scope. What does scope means? Scope is about what needs to be delivered. What is in scope? What is out of the scope? So this refers to all those deliverable scope, all those activity scope. Basically, we speak about 2 things. One is product scope and project scope. Product scope is all about ensuring the features, functionality of products are well defined and understood and signed off. And while delivering that product, that is tested against those defined features and functionalities. Whereas project scope focus on all the activities needs to be done, all those templates which has to be used, all the process which has to be complied with, all that skills which is required to be applied. So it is going as defined. So by doing this activities which is defined as part of project scope, the result, the deliverable will come out, which will be in line with the deliverables, features and functionality, which is defined as part of product scope. It is very important to ensure entire projects happens within this particular scope. There should not be any deviations from this. Schedule perspective, for that specifications what we have defined for a product and project. So these needs to be done in a specific point in time, means in a specific schedule. There will be start time, end time, right? So one has to plan how long a project would take and what are the deliverables should happen in what sequence, what activities are required to accomplish this. So all these needs to be understood. So while performing the schedule management, one has to look at a specific deliverable at a specific point in time by applying a specific set of activities required. So this will tell you the duration of the project. This will provide you the sequence of project. This will also help you to understand the dependency between one task to another task. This will also help you to understand how the deliverables happening in what sequence, which helps in prioritizing your deliverables. Third is cost. So as we know, to do any project, it is very essential to ensure project happens within that budget. So project cost is estimated initially, then that estimated cost will be checked in terms of is the assumptions, considerations are right or wrong. Is that really so much of monetary resources are required for the project? And then after understanding the justification and obtaining the clarity, budget is, I mean, monetary resources are allocated and confirmed, approved. Then it will become a budget. That will be a cost baseline. So these estimation, allocation of budget, once it happens, that will become a base, and any deviations from that cannot happen so easily. So any deviations because of additional of scope, that can be handled through change management. But idealistic scenario, the cost should not escalate or come down. Organization can also set certain tolerances at the project level, considering various different scenarios, like scenario of risks, scenario of something which deviated from the deliverable. So to what extent it can deviate, that tolerance will also be set at the economic or monetary value perspective. That is about cost. Now, quality, as we know, quality is a very important area which ensures the project is delivered in time with all the specifications defined by using all the methods, means by following all the processes, work instructions, templates, and delivering as needed, where it enables the project to monitor it easily. So basically, the requirement of compliance and standardization and optimization is to ensure everyone follows the same steps to the activity. So what quality management focus is to ensure the intended objectives of a project are achieved. Already there is a definition done in terms of various different practices or processes needs to be followed. Similarly, specification of each of the products are defined, and from that there should not be any deviation. So quality management should focus on ensuring those activities are done as defined, those deliverables are done according to the specifications what is defined. It is very important that way. So for that there is a layer of quality management, there should be a layer of quality management where auditing or control activities are initiated periodically so that any deviations can be seen easily. And remember, a project manager cannot become part of quality management. Like project manager cannot audit. Project manager should have a team or take the help of a team who can able to do. Mostly the one which is who is not part of the project is always better. Resources. Now, as I mentioned earlier, every project need resources. It may be human resources, it may be technology resources, it may be any other resources which are required to do the project. So organization acquires resources, configured and then deployed. For example, in a project, you acquire a server, you configure a server, you deploy a server. Technology resource. Human resource is onboarded, recruited, project induction is given. Then at the same time, the skills and capabilities of individuals are according to the requirement of project. That needs to be ensured. And what needs to be delivered and how it has to be delivered should be clear to the particular human resource. So looking at all the aspects of resources to acquire, to build and manage, it is very important to look at the resource management. So this will help in carrying out a specific task in the project in the best possible manner. So interestingly, when I say human resource, always there is a possibility that a conflict can occur. So when I say conflict of interest maybe in terms of what the individuals has to do, conflict in terms of the preferences, in terms of solutions, what they're looking at, conflict in terms of using resources, different opinions, different preferences, various reasons conflict can come across. So it is very important to project manager to understand this dynamics of human resources and manage those conflicts. Project manager cannot shy away from handling conflicts. Project manager has to hone and resolve those conflicts in the favor of project, not in the favor of any individuals. So there are various techniques to look at resolving conflicts. So that is like compromising, problem solving, smoothing, accommodating. So whichever helps for that project scenario, for the project objectives, that needs to be applied. That technique has to be taken up. So here the resolution is not at the specific individual's preference. It is with the objective of whether projects has any impact. What kind of impact? Positive or negative? If it is negative, no, that's not the direction. The direction should be ensuring project gets that value through this conflict resolution. So project manager should own it. It's an accountability of a project manager. Then as the human resources are acquired, there are 5 stages. Team dynamics are involved. So one has to bring them, then educate them about a project. As the education on the project happens, one has to go and do the job on floor. That needs to be observed. Means one has to manage by looking at it, and any corrections needs to be done. That needs to be guided. So it is very dynamic thing when it comes to human resources. Similarly, in technology resources, standardization. There is no ambiguity as such, but right resources with the right configurations should be acquired. That is very important. The next, stakeholders. So who can be stakeholders? Every project will have a stakeholder who are internal and external to the project. So the internal stakeholders are those who are part of the project, who are part of the organization, who are part of the customer organization, or part of supplier organization. A computation to my business means my organization's business. All this we can call it as a stakeholders. Now every stakeholders will have a specific interest, a power, an ability to influence. Now through their position, through their distance from the project, they will get impacted. At the same time, they will also impact the project. Similarly, they influence and they get influenced because of the project. So a project manager should identify all the stakeholders and understand this. What is the kind of stakeholder is this in terms of power, in terms of legitimacy, in terms of influence, in terms of impact? After understanding that, there should be a strategy for handling the stakeholders. How am I going to engage with these stakeholders? It is very important. And accordingly, the engagement should happen, and then stakeholder engagement should resolve in the favor of projects again. So if it is a customer should get the inputs required through review or periodic updates and the engagement required with the customer, so that customer is having up to date information about the project. If it is a team, continued monitoring and control and ensuring team delivers the results what is required. So focus of a stakeholder should be in such a way that your strategy should enable project to become successful and get a proper response from the stakeholder, means a supporting engagement. So next few key focus areas to mention is communication, risk, procurement, critical success factors, deliverables, and work breakdown. So this list is not exhaustive. As we deep dive into project, I think you can just keep listing the key focus areas more than this. But whatever we have indicated are the minimum which needs to be looked at. So when I say communication, communication is basically a conversation, exchange of message which happens between two entities. Now, whenever we communicate, it is necessary to understand that it has to happen with two individuals or two entities. There should be sender, there should be receiver. In the absence of receiver, if sending is happening, that communication doesn't make any sense. There should be a receiver and there should be an acknowledgement from the receiver. Now, this is one of the most ignored area in many of the projects. Even the communication happens more often, more frequently. But what people face difficulty in realizing that as they communicate generally, informally, formally, they just take those for granted. Now, when you identify the stakeholder, one has to understand what is the communication requirement for those stakeholders. What is that communication? Why is that communication? What is the content of that communication? How frequently we should do that interactions or communications? Intent of that particular communication. What is the expected action or response from that communication? All this needs to be very, very clear, and this can be articulated. It has to be articulated. So when it is articulated, once there is a picture in terms of what kind of communication has to happen, it is quite obvious there should not be any deviation from the agreed communications requirements. And whenever there is a need of change to the communication requirements from the stakeholders, that needs to be updated. For this, one has to have a stakeholders identified. So stakeholder management and communication are very closely linked and associated. Engagement with the stakeholder will become successful with an effective communication approaches. Next is risk. So every project which is undertaken by organization, that will have certain amount of risk which organization will evaluate. Similarly, within the project life cycle, lot of risk comes up which would have certain impact to the project. Now, risk refers to, by definition, an uncertain event. It has an uncertainty. An event which is uncertain, and when it occurs, it will have an impact on the project positively or negatively. Now, current scenario in everywhere the projects, what you observe closely, people tend to look at the risk which are threats, that is negative only, but they fail to recognize the risks which are opportunities, the positive risks. So another gap which we see when do the risk management is that is done in the initial phase of the project. As the project is kicked off, someone will do the risk assessment, have a list of risk identified, but unfortunately there is no categorizations for that risk, and how is that going to impact the project, that is not clear. Thirdly, risk management or list of risk are created only once. It is not done repeatedly. So risk identification and analysis and assessment of that risk has to be done throughout the life cycle of a project. Reason being, the risk which looks as an high impact when project is initiated, as the project progresses, the impact levels will vary. Maybe in the mid of the project, the impact may be very high or low. So likewise, the impacts of the risk will vary throughout the project life cycle. It may be positive, it may be negative. So as you identify the stakeholder throughout the project life cycle, as I said, that is also a dynamic. I cannot just have a list of stakeholders and I keep it as it is. I need to update that also regularly. Risk identification, assessment, and analysis should also be done regularly, periodically, so that one will have a clear understanding about, is that risk still valid? Is that risk is there still or not? What is the level of variations in terms of impact of the risks? So this clarity will be there so that organization or project manager can get ready to face those risks. If it is a negative risk, definitely you should have a mitigation or avoidance or acceptance, whatever the mitigation plan you have to eliminate the negative impact of the risk when it occurs. If it is a positive risk, it's quite obvious one has to take the advantage of that. One has to enhance, exploit, share a positive risk so that organization is benefited. Further, procurement. So whenever a project is initiated, whenever a project is taken up, the organization who is doing the project cannot create everything, cannot develop everything in that project life cycle. So organization would take a decision, make a decision stating that some of the deliverables we make ourselves, some of the products we make ourselves, some of the products we purchase, some of the services we purchase. So to purchase, that has to happen from a specific supplier. You cannot go with every supplier. You should evaluate those suppliers, qualify the suppliers, and then select, onboard the supplier, and then get the services or products supplied by that particular supplier. So while doing this, one has to understand what type of contracting they need to enter with. So three types of contracts we speak basically. One is about cost plus contract, where cost is fully known to the project manager and to the organization. So apart from known cost, a fee will be paid to the supplier. Another one is fixed price, where project manager or the organization who is awarding that contract to a supplier will not know what is the cost. Instead, it is a fixed price. But important here is the scope of work needs to be clearly articulated and defined. Another type of contracting can be time and material, where the billing will happen based on the amount of time one is spent on that particular hire a resource or onboard a resource on a time and material basis, and what is that effort that resource has been put. Based on that, billing will happen. So three types of contracts depending on the different scenarios of the project will be signed with the contractor. However, before doing that, it is very essential to identify those suppliers, sign off with them, and monitor and manage them. So if deliverables are not there, it is very essential to look at the termination. One has to terminate. Otherwise, one has to ensure, instead of terminating, should be able to put some effort to educate them also, so that they come up to the mark, so project is benefited. So depending on what needs to be done, that call has to be taken on a regular basis. Then critical success factor. So for every project, there should be an articulation of critical success factor. So based on that, one can confirm, yes, project has achieved its objectives or project has not achieved its objectives. So critical success factor should be supported through the metrics, key performance indicators. So key performance indicators provide those metrics to say critical success factor is achieved. For example, if I want to become successful in an exam, critical success factor is scoring or passing the examination. Or let me say, to pass the examination, key performance indicator is scoring 60% and above. So critical success factor for me to get promoted is to pass in this particular exam. So to pass in this exam, minimum I should score is 60%. That is KPI. Passing in the exam, that is critical success factor. So how will I measure that success factor is KPI. So every project which it produces a specific product or services by using a specific resources, and each of these, the resources, the processes, the templates, the deliverables, all these needs to be measured on a continual basis. So there are critical success factors defined, and those are measured by defining KPIs to that critical success factors. So basically, critical success factor provides the insight towards what needs to be measured, and when you measure, what should be the focus. And to achieve those critical success factors, the indicator is key performance indicators. When you measure, yes, the moment you achieve that, your CSF is achieved. Next, deliverables. So deliverables are those which comes as an output of the project, right? It may be a product, it may be a service, it may be a result. So this refers to the output within the scope of a project. So there can be one or more deliverables within a single project. So these deliverables may be the items that are to be sent externally to a customer or a stakeholder. So every deliverable will have a defined scope, will have a defined specification. So those deliverables has to be measured, tested, and one has to confirm, yes, this deliverable is performing as we are intended to have the performance. Accordingly, the decision will happen. Should we accept this particular deliverable or not? If there is deviation, that has to go back for correction. So that's the reason we have monitoring and control. All the control processes like control quality focused on the product state, whether it has achieved that results or not. Is that functional as needed or not? One has to ensure these deliverables has all those features and functionalities. Only then that can be handed over to the respective stakeholder, customer or operation, whoever the stakeholder it is. Next is work breakdown structure. So when we say work breakdown structure, when I look at a specific piece of product or services and have a bigger picture, I cannot even visualize the various different components, various different actions involved in achieving that bigger deliverable. So if I say a car, so I can think of a body external, I can think of a mirror on that body, I can think of a glass in the front, side, as well as the back side. And also I can think of interiors like seat, then accelerator, steering, dashboard. All this I can visualize. But since I'm not a technology expert relating to car, can I visualize all those parts which are working inside for car to move, like engine, the battery assembly? I don't know what to say further. So all these can be visualized by an expert. So every product or services should be broken down into multiple pieces. I'm not saying go and break that product. I'm saying that product will have multiple components which are involved. Those needs to be segregated. For example, if I say cars exteriors, cars interior. So cars exteriors, external items you can see, whatever you visualize, body structure, mirror assembly, headlights, then tires. So likewise, whatever I can visualize, I will make it as a line items under the exterior. So under, for example, under a mirror I can speak about mirror glass, mirror cap, mirror pedestal, and mirror assembly where it moves, where you can move the mirror. So these are the various components involved in a mirror. So I need to ensure by breaking down the product into multiple levels, by decomposing it to multiple levels, I can able to visualize the product very clearly. What is there in detail. So once I have the details, I will articulate those. What is that particular work breakdown element is, product breakdown element is. Then I will look at what skills and capabilities required for that product, and I will assign the resources accordingly. So once activities, resources, everything is assigned, automatically this will become a work breakdown structure. Further, after creating a work breakdown structure, one will go and sequence the activity, look at sequencing will happen based on in what priority deliverable should happen, what order deliverable should happen. Then once the sequencing is done, it will be checked to see whether anything can be optimized, anything can be done in such a way that smooth flow of the project can happen. There is no dependencies which will make project to delay. Like as the flow happens smoothly, so you would find the various techniques like critical path method, network diagramming, critical chain method. So all these are used. The floats of an activities are checked. Then leads and lags of the activities, the relationship between the activities. So accordingly, full visualization in terms of how the project will flow and how in what order the deliverables are happening can be easily visualized. So that is the reason first activity is to do the product breakdown, which would result in work breakdown structure. So those are the points till now whatever I mentioned are the basic understanding one should have about a project and project management. So as you deep dive into various best practices like PMP by PMI, Prince 2 by Axelos, Scrum Master, Agile Scrum Master. Similarly, you have Certified Scrum Master. So many agile practices. So when you look at any of the best practices, that will tell you clearly articulate what should be the practice for you to adopt and adapt that practices so that your project can become successful. So any of those approach you touch upon, all those refers to these basic things. In the absence of these basic things, none of those best practices discusses the project management. Now, typically in the industry, there are a lot of job roles to the project management, which we have seen. So based on that, this information is captured here on various job roles in a project management. So some of them are like project manager, senior project manager, project lead, resource manager, PMO, that is project management office analyst, steering committee member. So not necessarily all the project management roles are limited to this. So these are the roles which commonly you see, and we are trying to capture that to give the insight, right? When I say project manager, the project manager is the owner. One has to take an accountability for the project, right? So project managers takes the project according to the plan and plays a lead role in all the steps of the project management, right? So responsibilities would be managing, reviewing, and prioritizing the task wherever necessary, looking after risk management, stakeholder management, and project communication management. Some of the salary, what we found while we were doing the survey, the success ratio of a project depends majorly on the project manager. So the demand for project managers is rapidly increasing in the market. So accordingly, 75,474 per year, that is the USD. In INR, it is 1500,000. So this is what the salary on an approximation what was found. Next role, we look at senior project manager, where senior project manager is the head of the overall project management plan. The role demands in-depth knowledge of all the project aspects on the specifics of the project. The responsibilities would be planning and coordinating complex projects, visiting project sites to check progress and handle complex issues. So salary looks like $104,000 per year, year 2092,000 INR per year. So the role of senior project manager is one of the highest paying roles in the industry, as we have seen, having several allowances and bonuses because of the criticality involved in that project and the accountability level of that particular individuals in the organization. Next role, project lead. So project leads are the one who leads the people throughout the project and provide them with all the information required throughout. So responsibilities involve motivating the team, beneath taking care of their needs and paying attention to what they feel, ordering or controlling the project team since the project lead has more freedom than the project manager. Salary, project lead makes sure that project gives the best possible outcome and is hence the demand for the project lead in a company never reduces. So in USD, 82,000 per year, whereas in INR it is 1,269,000 per year. Next role we can look at on resource manager. So resource manager is the human resource needed to make the project success, right? So one has to manage those resources. Responsibility involved assigning the right people to the right projects at the right time, managing employees currently, and determining hiring needs depending on the project's requirements. So salary would be around 64,000 USD, which comes around 966,794 in INR. Project Management Office Analyst. For this role, the Project Management Office Analyst works with PMO, means Project Management Office, and does not look at the project or manage the project directly. Instead, does most of the data-driven work which required for a project to have or project to get supported by that, so that project managers will have better insight, analyzing and interpreting the data concerning the project, figuring out the future risks to the project, finding new ways to advance the idea of the project management. So salary would be 106,253 per year in USD, whereas 449,337 in INR per year. So steering committee member. So the steering committee members are the members who do not work on the project themselves. They are there to help the project manager, like providing inputs during the development of a project, advising on the budget and evaluating the project strategies, taking regular feedbacks from the project managers and asking necessary questions. So salary would be around $68,497 per year. So those were the various roles, and that list is not an exhaustive list. Various different roles we come across, but these are the basic roles which is seen in the industry. These roles are being recruited. Now there are various project management certifications which are offered, as I mentioned earlier. So those certifications are PMP, that is Project Management Professional from PMI, Agile Certified Practitioner, that is PMI ACP, again from PMI, then Certified Associate in Project Management. So difference between CAPM and PMP is like CAPM would act as a basic level of certification for those who does not have a sufficient project experience, project management experience, whereas PMP is for those who has some project management experience. Similarly, PMI ACP is the one who is aspiring to look at agility in project management, and they can go for it. Certified Scrum Master, yes, it is a Scrum Master certificate which will explain the role of a Scrum Master in detail. Similarly, Prince 2, a certification from Axelos, which also speak about all the aspects of the project what we discussed and provides the framework for project management. Axelos also provides Prince 2 certification in Agile also, Agile Prince 2 certification. So we will look at each one of this, certain details which are required for us to know. So project management professional, as I mentioned, is most acknowledged and value, the certificate value what it carries, which has resulted to the certified professionals in landing up in highest paid jobs in the world. So certified managers gets 20% more salary than the average salary. So to take up an examination, one has to go through the formal training of 35 hours. That is one of the prerequisites. And there should be some experience of 4,500 hours of project managing project by leading the various activities of a project. And once the person becomes eligible with that prerequisites, person will become register in the PMI's website, becomes member, and then go for examination. So examination fee for PMP would be $405 for the members who are registered with PMI, and for those who are not registered as a member with PMI, it is $555. The duration of the examination is 4 hours, and the number of questions will be 200, which are multiple choice questions. So each question carries 1 marks. There is no negative scoring. Now prerequisites: one has to have 4,500 hours directing and leading the projects. That experience has to be filled in while filling the application. If a person is a bachelor degree holder, and along with that 35 contact hours of PM education. Now prerequisites for the one who is not a graduate, who may be high school or diploma, is 7,500 hours of directing and leading projects, 35 hours of PM education. So those are the prerequisites before one will go and appear for examination. So once an individual passes PMP examination, that certificate is valid for 3 years. So now after 3 years, if the person aspires to keep the certificate continued, they need to produce 60 PDUs, professional development units, which has to be acquired during those 3 years. How to acquire? One has to go through additional learning. One has to contribute towards project management knowledge base. So those needs to be evidenced, and then renewal fee has to be paid and certificate has to be renewed. Then Agile Certified Practitioner, as we saw for PMP, here Agile Certified Practitioner demonstrates that one has relevant experience in education to handle and lead Agile projects. The organization has started shifting towards Agile, as we know, in today's industry, which makes this certification fast growing in the world. So examination fee would be $435 for PMI members, $495 for non-PMI members. Duration is 3 hours and multiple choice questions, 120 questions. Prerequisites is 2,000 hours project management experience with 1,500 hours agile experience and 21 contact hours of agile practices. So maintenance, 30 PDOs are required for every 3 years, and after paying the renewal fee, that can be renewed. Now, certified associate in project management. So here, this is an entry level certificate of PMI, especially for those people who has less project experience. It intends to demonstrate fundamental knowledge, terminologies, and processes of effective project management. So examination fee would be $225 for PMI members, whereas $300 for non-members of PMI. So duration of examination is 3 hours, and examination will have 150 multiple choice questions. So prerequisites: someone who has secondary diploma with 23 contact hours of PM education is enough. There is no experience of doing the project is required, as we saw in PMP. So maintenance is again 3 years. Someone who need to continue the certification has to retake the examination every 3 years. Next, certified Scrum Master. So certified Scrum Master is an entry-level certification that helps the professionals to begin as the Scrum practitioners. Is one of the most sought after certifications, as other after this one can get the designation of certified Scrum Master, which is offered by Scrum Alliance. So examination fee, which will change time to time, which is not revealed. So one has to approach the training organization where they will get trained on certified Scrum Master. So duration of examination is 60 minutes and pattern would be 16 hours, 2 days of training and 50 multiple choice questions after that particular 2 days of training. Then prerequisite is done for maintaining these credentials. So one has to ensure it has renewed every 2 years. Then projects in controlled environment, that is Prince 2. So Prince 2 is a method which is effective mostly from the base of UK. All the organizations who are from UK region prefers to have Prince 2 certification, and it is as popular as any other project management certifications like PMP. So examination fee would vary from $900 to $1,000 depending on where exactly you're taking the examination. And certification will happen at 2 levels. One is at foundation level and other one is practitioner. So in foundation, it is 60 questions, multiple choice, and in practitioner, it is 68 questions. Now, 60 questions or 68 questions, each carries 1 marks for correct answer. Any wrong answer, there will not be any negative scoring. One has to score 55% to clear the examination. So prerequisites for Prince 2 Foundation is none, whereas Prince 2 Foundation is a prerequisite for Prince 2 practitioner examination. So to maintain the certificate, one has to achieve 20 CPDs every year, continued professional development. So now as part of this project planning, we would be trying to understand what is project planning fundamentals, then why project planning, tools for project planning, and then basic project planning steps. So let us look at a scenario. What happens if there is no planning in place, right? So if you look at a scenario where one of the executives in the organization who is in the project is tensed, and what is the reason the person is tensed? If you go and inquire that person, so he says I have issues in estimating the budget. Now, when we say planning, planning is not just about budget. Planning is beyond budget, so which involves many things like schedule, which is time, the scope, which means the deliverables, as well as the resources and other things what we need to do the project, and to understand what is the deliverables in requirement perspective. Similarly, we speak about quality, we speak about risk, we speak about stakeholders, procurement. So likewise, the planning is bigger than just a budget. But however, in this case, we're just looking at a scenario where estimating the budget has become an issue. So what could be the reason that has become an issue? Right, that might be because you haven't planned for project properly. So which requires a detailed understanding or proper understanding of whatever we are doing. So let me tell you how you can make sure it doesn't happen again with the help of project planning. This is what the response from experienced personnel in the organization who is into PMO or who is into project management practices on regular basis, who has a significant amount of experience. So that is the reason he could able to point out. Let us look at the planning. So only then we can able to have a proper understanding about what needs to be done and what is there exactly we need to focus on. So now, what is project planning? Now, when we look at a project as a whole, when we visualize project as a whole, planning is one of the important part. Now, if I look at PMI's framework, we speak about 49 project management processes. Till PMBOK 6th edition, it was defined. So now, out of 49 processes, 24 processes are dedicated for planning, which means almost 50% of the processes are there for planning. And that is the only area where you have the processes in all the knowledge areas. So we speak about 10 knowledge areas like integration, then scope management, then cost management, schedule management, risk management, quality management, communication management, stakeholder management, procurement management, resource management. So in each of these knowledge areas, we have the processes when it comes to planning. But when I say I'm going to initiate the project, I'm going to execute the project, I don't see processes in all the knowledge areas, and it has its own reason. We'll not get into that. However, the important point what we need to have an understanding is planning plays such a significant and important role where majority of the clarity you obtain, you have to obtain during the planning. So we will have this confusion. So when I go with the detailed planning of something, I may end up in having some changes in between. Means whenever there is an uncertainty in the project, uncertainty is huge. Now there you cannot have a detailed planning for entire project, but you may require to have the detailed planning for the extent it is visible to you. To the extent it is clearly visible to you as a project manager, then you can able to execute that part of it and get into elaborating further, and then understand the next part of the project if you are going as agile way of doing the projects. But however, in either of the cases, whether you are going with predictive approach of the project or you are going with the adaptive approach of the project, in either cases, planning is must and it plays very important role. So many a times we only look at the deliverables part of it. You only look at some processes relating to executing part of it. We miss out in terms of risk. We miss out in terms of quality. Maybe we miss out in terms of analyzing on the effort and resources. So these will actually create issues as you progress in the project, and you may find difficult in taking the project to the directions required, to the objective, what needs to be accomplished. So first thing we should have a clarity is any project when organization takes up the project for a reason, maybe because of solving certain problem or improving or enhancing certain performances or enhancing certain features functionalities in the particular product or services, or wanted to introduce some new product or services into the market. Likewise, there are many reasons organization would have to take up the project. And when organization takes up the project, we should keep in mind organization takes up the project for a reason, business reason. Now, as a project manager, I need not worry about revenue, but I may require to have a proper understanding of why the project is taken up. What is the reason the project is taken up? And what is that organization is trying to accomplish out of it? When as a project manager, I have the clarity, it helps me to take the project in a specific direction. So we should not have any ambiguity or not having the clarity. Instead, as a project manager, one has to obtain that clarity, and to that context, to accomplish, to have everything set aligned to the directions, we may require to plan. So everything we do in the project should be aligned to what we are doing. However, in planning, everything should be visible. Must only then you can able to bring that alignment. If it is not available during the planning, if we are not considered during the planning, then obviously we may find difficulty in taking things into that required alignment or accomplishing that objective, because your execution will be based on your planning, and all that you monitor and control will be based on what is defined during the planning. Similarly, when you close, before closure, you check whether everything is accomplished. Again, that is what is defined in the planning. We may have something defined before project is taken up, but the justification happens there for sure. But for aligning to that, you do planning. So everything should be in line, and what intent the organization wanted to accomplish, that needs to be achieved, and that requires a proper planning. So looking at a project in entirety, right? In a project in entirety, project may have multiple stages or phases. Project may have multiple packages to deliver. Project will have multiple deliverables. So each of these would consider initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closure. Now at each level. So if I look at it at a project level, yes, definitely it is there. If I look at it at the stage or phase level, yes, it is there. If I look at a specific deliverables, yes, it is there. At every level, we plan. So since our interest, our focus of this particular session is to look at the importance of planning, project planning, let us focus on planning part of it. But however, I'll give you some overview of the framework, project management framework, how it would look like. So when I say initiate, what should I initiate? So initially, the initiation happens from business itself, as I mentioned already, for accomplishing certain objectives. Through that trigger, project is taken up, a business case would be created, a project charter will be created, and that project charter will be handed over to the project manager. While creating this project charter, that would be considering all those details which is mentioned in the agreement or the business case, and then that will provide an entire summary of the project, what needs to be accomplished, what is that organization aiming to accomplish through this project. So having that clarity, project manager would take up and connect with stakeholders, and then identify all the stakeholders, discuss with them, bring in SMEs, have a team structure, and then create a detailed planning if it is predictive, or a skeleton plan if it is agile approach. I mean, adaptive kind of thing. So once the planning is done, it's all about execution. So as a project manager, the project manager as an individual may not be doing the hands-on of that particular project execution. However, the project manager would be involved actively in terms of ensuring all those resources are available, all those processes are complied with, then all the stakeholders are connected, updated, deliverables are happening as per the plan. So project managers should see that it is happening and get the things done. So in many project management session, I keep telling people, keep asking me this question specifically: do project managers should have a subject matter expertise? Answer is yes, not to the extent where project manager will go sit and do the configuration, but however, project manager should know what question to ask, what exactly the team is speaking about. Project manager should be able to visualize that. So meaning project manager should do the groundwork immediately while you get into planning in entirety, understand from the SMEs, understand from the industry experts, or you do your own groundwork to know what exactly it is, speak to business, and then only then during the execution you know exactly what is that output can be expected, and accordingly you do monitoring and controlling. So from execution to monitoring and controlling. So while we do monitoring and controlling, so as the deliverables comes out or as the features is been introduced, so there should be metrics to measure. There should be methods to measure those metrics. And each of those metrics, critical success factors or key performance indicators, one should be able to analyze and understand